Hello everyone, welcome to Ottoman Studio YouTube channel. Today we are in Palmdale in Mandeville Modular Inc. My name is Andrew, I'm from Ottoman Studio. We do design drawings permits. This is Ethan. He is the owner of this manufacturer. Hello.
How you doing?
Good. Today we are going to talk about modular construction in general, all the phases from the first design sketch until we have this constructed and delivered to the property, and you can just live in this house. So first question I have to you is, for someone who never heard about this, what exactly is modular construction?
If you've ever seen a high-rise building go up, you'll see the steel go up in parts and pieces. All modular is more of those parts and pieces put together and then sent to the site. So it's all it is. We're completing as much of the process within a factory setting as we possibly can. That means the structure, the interior finishes are allowed to be installed within a controlled factory environment. And that's what modular is. And they've labeled it as volumetric, as we're able to put more components inside that envelope. So you'll see that just the exterior is left undone.
And how is modular construction different from prefab or traditional stick-built homes?
Okay, that's a great question. So prefab is, and traditional modular you would attribute it to like a school bungalow or an office trailer. Those units are allowed to be transferred through axles you can place under those buildings. They're not designed to be permanent structure. Volumetric modular is designed to be a permanent affixed structure. And that's why it's more feasible in the long term than the modular units. The components that you utilize to build a prefab are lighter components because they're designed to travel over road with less weight.
So basically, modular, it's like Lego. You just deliver pieces and...
That's exactly it. It. Sometimes we have clients that say the same thing, and that's how I explain it. It's like Lego pieces. You put the blocks together.
Okay. So now you know what's this modular construction. Okay, the next question. What are the biggest benefits? Speed, cost, quality, or sustainability?
Okay, it's a great question. Clients always say, I've heard modular is cheap. It's cheaper to build than stick built. Well, that's... You have a cost savings based on efficiency, right? Anytime you're able to build in a confined factory environment, it leads to efficiency. We're not impacted by weather conditions. So some of those inherent issues you'd have to stick built, we don't have that limitation. Thinking of the theft, the damage, the delay in materials. With a stick-built site, you usually have limited areas to store materials. In a factory environment, we procure all the materials going into your modular unit from the very beginning. So all we're doing is pulling from that inventory and putting it into your unit. So that being said, we have that speed, that efficiency, which then leads to your cost savings. Because we're using the same materials you would on traditional stick built, right? And we're using the same labor. It's just the setting within which we're building it leads to the efficiencies, which inherently lead to cost savings.
Yeah, it makes sense. Let's talk about the type of modular construction. So what does modular make the most sense? ADUs, affordable housing, remote sites?
You know, if you're a true modular manufacturer, it's adaptable to any environment, which Mandeville Modular is. We truly adapt to any. You also have where the thought process is the more you build, the more efficient you are in building that same unit. So that would lead you to think that modular is the most efficient for multifamily, high-rise. There are inherent efficiencies there. But also the benefit is that if you are building a single family house, but you're using the same footprint you would on a multifamily, then you have the ability to deliver that same price point to a single family. So you could do a one-off or you could do 300 of them. You can pretty much get the same price point. The only variable that you would have would be the interior finishes. That would be your cost factor.
A lot of our clients asking us this question. So are modular homes only for new build, or can they also be used for additions or remodels?
You can use them for I don't know how you would utilize it for example, a remodel, but for an addition, you could. So it would be adaptable to the, to your house if you're going to add on, if you're going to go vertical. You can also add a second story via modular.
So you're saying that if you have, let's say, the old house, the client can remodel what's already existing and they can just put on top.
Yeah. So we would just add some columns within the house, like you would do anyway. If you're going to do a second story in an existing house, you would add columns. If it's made out of wood, you'd add some large posts. What we would do, we just add steel columns, what they call HSS tubes, that would go in a wall section, and then that would support the building above.
Okay, that's good information. So if you have old house, you want to build the second story quickly without delays, like rain delays or weather delays, you can just order the modular section and just put on top, and basically to make it fast, quickly, and high quality.
Yeah.
Okay. Now we are going to talk about the design and permitting process. So I'm going to tell you a little bit the difference between permitting the regular housing and the modular housing. So the main difference is then if you have regular EDU house, whatever, a regular structure, you just create the drawings and you submit directly to the city where you're going to get the building permit and all the other permits. If we are going to do the modular housing, it's a little bit different process. So first of all, for all modular housing, the MEP package is required, and we don't submit to the city. First of all, we prepare the package of the drawings and submit to the state. So then state can review it and approve it. And once it's approved by state, we submit these drawings to local department, local city. And then it's much faster turnaround for permitting process because, let's say, you want to build something in Palmdale, yes? So we create the drawings, we submit to state of California, we get approval from the state, and then we submit these drawings to local city of Palmdale, and they review only the foundation, just connection to the site, so they don't review all the structure once more time. In general, it's much faster turnaround time. During this process, when we're creating the design, we of course trying to have at least a couple of visits to the factory, so with the client, so we can discuss all the details and issues. And like from your experience, what's the most important to discuss with the client once we are on the design phase and we arrive to the factory?
I think the client and the architect, everyone has to understand how our modular system is. For example, the reason that's important, if you're building a stick-built house, you can change a wall by half an inch, 3/4 of an inch as it's being built. It's the same thing. When you're visiting your custom built house, the architect and the client always want to visit. When it's the foundation's in, you want to go see it. When it's the framing is up, you want to go see it because you may want to make a change. So we encourage clients to look at the factory visits in the same light. As we go through each phase of their building, we want them to come and visit and ensure that the design is matching what we're building out for them.
Yeah, so I want to point this. It's important to make these visits because whatever we are proposing, some design, we need to make sure then to build this makes sense. Let's say we propose some MEP wall, like, for water connection or whatever. And then we arrive to the factory and we talk together, we show the design, and together we decide that much more sense was to just move this MEP wall to different location.
Right.
So the things are important. Any other thing that's important during this design phase?
Yeah, and we can add some value as well too, in the sense that building the efficiency within the modular space. So as an architect and the client, you want to have your open space. A client really doesn't care what the building structure itself is. They're looking at the finished product, right? So we want to allow them the ability to guide that finished product. So we worry about the mechanics behind the scenes in regards to the framing, where certain things are placed, and we allow them to see that, hey, this is the room you're going to have. This is the space within the room. So that's why we encourage them to come and visit. And then while the architect is here, that's going to guide that design with the client. If there's something they want to change and take advantage of a space they didn't realize they would have traditionally, then they could have that opportunity to do that, and we can make that adjustment throughout the process.
We also offer 3D renders during this design process, and so the client can visualize what they're going to have. But does it help you, like these renders, to talk to the client and to make the final decision, or not?
It does. It does, because it allows us to understand the components, the finished components that the client visually wants to see, how they want the house to look, feel, perform. So all those are very important to us because there's supporting systems behind those that allows those to function, right? So we want to be able to adjust as need be. For example, if you're looking at, a simple thing as a air conditioning register, do you want a linear register or square register? Once the building is up, we can make adjustments to give them that finished register, whether they want a linear along the wall or they want a square one or they want it hidden. So those are components that are key for them and the architects to come out on a regular basis.
Probably the last question I have is, let's say we're doing some design, the clients are wondering, and we submit to state, and they give us some corrections. And these corrections doesn't work with your factory work. Like, does it happen at all, or it's common?
So the good thing with our system, we get our system state approved prior to having any design work done. And as a manufacturer, we're establishing the protocol the state goes by. In the sense, what I mean by that is that once they've approved our structural system, they know our system can support what we're proposing to build. We then can envision what your design is and build it into our system. So the only thing we usually get pushback from the state is there's a note missing, a simple note missing, or where are you going to put the solar? So it's usually very, very simple things. So we don't have an issue with the state really coming back.
From our experience too, so the state approval is completely different animal than local approval because they don't worry that much. They just check general structure, and the turnaround time for approval is not that long like for local approval. And then once you have state approval, it's much easier to get local approval. So in total you have like 2 approvals, but faster than regular local approval.
Definitely. Because you think of modular, if you think of a modular building, it's 80% of your overall development. Only thing that's left is the site portion. That's grading, bringing in utilities, and the foundation. So there's a clear delineation usually on the drawings that outline for the city. These are what you're supposed to review. This is what the state's reviewed. And here's the affixed approved drawings clarifying that the state has reviewed and approved those. So then it alleviates a lot of the review process that the city has to do. So it does speed it up. Usually we get approval in 14 days from the state on our drawings. Some cities could take months. But now that we've eliminated 80% of the review, they're taking 30, 45 days. So overall, it's much quicker.
So here we are at the factory, and we are going to walk you through the whole process from the beginning, when we receive this model, and then during the construction, and then until the models are done and delivered to the property. So can you explain me, let's say, this model or the process in general, how it starts?
So once we're receiving our mod sections, we receive them in our receiving door. We then put them on our true up beams that we have here on the floor. We mate the 2 7-foot sections together to make an overall 14-foot mod. We make sure it's square, it's plumb. We then move it off of that true up sled. We put it in this location it's in now. We weld it together to lock it in place, and then we start framing out the walls with all our material that's off to the side there. And once the rough framing is done, we then transition to station 2, where we elevate the modular units that allows us access underneath to be able to put in all the drains. And we start putting the plumbing, the electrical, and any mechanical that needs to go in these units. And then from there, we transition them forward, where we will start doing our one side of drywall, our insulation, and continue to move it through that process.
So basically, in this starting point, you're going to receive just this frame.
Yes.
And you close it with walls.
Yes. We close up the walls, do all the interior demising walls. Yes.
Let's talk about this particular model. So why is it for? And why it doesn't have any supporting post in the middle?
So for us, we have a design that allows us to span up to 60 feet without having any intermediary columns. Our roof structure allows us that capability. And this project is for City of San Bernardino. It's their navigation center. This section we're building now is going to house, I think, 75 beds. So there'll only be 5-foot high walls that will show where all the beds are isolated and laid out for the individual occupants to have, their privacy and have a bed to sleep on.
And how customizable are those models for the client?
As customizable as they want us to be. I mean, we believe in not having you fit our mod, but our mod fit your design. So we believe that we're 100% customizable to meet your design.
And if you are talking about timeline, so how long does it take usually from when we receive this frame until the model is completed?
So we have 8 stations. So we produce 2 to 4 units every day.
2 units per day.
Yes. So this will progress. So every couple days, these things will shift. Our requirement in our production is there's a day to frame. It moves down to MEP. So we'll have our electrical guys, our plumbing guys get on it. And then from that time, it then transitions down the next station. So each of these units stay in each station a day, the most a day and a half, if we have to make some changes or corrections. Because we QA, QC every step of the way. So if something is installed that we don't like, or as we're testing each part and component, we see something's wrong, we'll fix it. We just won't push it down the line. So that may inherently delay us like half a day or whatever it takes to.
So from start to finish, just 2 days?
Yes.
Oh, it's pretty fast.
Yes. For each station, we're 1 to 2 days.
Ah, okay. Super
and
fast.
Then, yeah, so that's how we keep the production line moving forward.
And okay, how do you maintain quality control across all units if you have that many?
Right. So it's pretty easy because we have a go-to. So our framing, there's a lead. Electrical, there's a lead. Plumbing, there's a lead. So our floor production manager, Richard, he stays on it. So he's on the floor. He's constantly going through each station and checking what the drawings and design require in each unit and verifying that it's installed per design. And then we're testing the components. Other thing that we do before it's allowed to move to the next station, we do a final QA/QC. So I may come and review it, and we have a electronic system that allows us to do that and note on there who inspected it, who allowed it to move to station 2. So it has to get a QA/QC sign off before it moves to the next station.
So it's basically you, or you?
I will help sometimes. If I'm down here, because I love hands-on, I'm involved in every aspect of it, but the main person responsible here is Richard. Which is our floor production manager, yeah.
So he is basically responsible for quality control.
Correct.
And okay, how many people are working in this factory?
We have up to 75. It just depends, whatever work we have going on. We believe in flex labor. So if we need 10 guys, we have a smaller project, then it's 10 guys. If we have a larger project that we're pushing out, then we just increase the workforce as we need.
So that's good. And what building codes and certifications do your models comply with?
We comply with every building code, international building code, local jurisdiction and state code. So for example, there was a code cycle. So now we're on code cycle 22, year 22, I believe. And that's a code compliance that we follow. So we go a step above. So whatever that code says, we go a step above. For example, on any penetration coming out for electrical, we're not required to do what's called fire stopping, but we do fire stopping here, as you'll see demonstrated on a couple stations up the way.
Okay, and you have the crew, a lot of people working here, and do you use any robotic or automation in your production line?
So we have automation in our Fontana facility. Not very much, right? Because we believe that manpower in regards to building the mods out are more effective than automation for us. So that's what we've seen. But as we're cutting and preparing parts and pieces for the structural side, it's all automation there. The only thing we have here that's robotic is our robot that we use to move the mods back and forth, which we just landed on the robot and remote control, and it's pulling it outside.
And one question is, why steel? Why is not wood?
Because, I believe in giving back to the environment, right? Wood it produces oxygen. Trees produce oxygen, right? And we have limited supply of lumber that's here. And then the other component, you're not even thinking green, the other component is mold, mildew, termites. If you're going to build a beautiful house, the last thing you want to do is get infested by termites, right? So for us, steel allows us for the fire rating, the ability to cover larger spans. So with wood, if I'm going to cover a, say, 60-foot span, I've got a PSL or purlim that's 3 foot tall, right? Here, I have something that's 8 inches tall. So I can I can have more customizability to your building and your design by using steel. I have higher fire rating, no mold, no mildew. So it's just for us, it's a better component. And the steel we use is recycled.
Yeah.
So we're giving back to the environment. We're reducing our carbon footprint by using recycled components, which is steel and our light gauge.
Makes sense. Okay, let's talk about this. What do we have here? And explain us, please.
Right. So this is a good example of electrical on our panel that we have installed. All our systems, when you're asking about codes earlier, we always go a step above. So everything is solar ready. Here in California, Title 24, solar is really key and big. Instead of having to change this load center to accept solar, we just go ahead and put it in. Even though this house is not requiring us to have solar here, the client may want to choose to do that. So that's what we do. This gives a good example also of how we prepare this when it's on site, having your rigid conduit there that with a pull string in it to be able to pull your conductors in. When you land this there, you don't have to worry about trying to fish through the MC cable that we utilize for this. All our homes as well come with all fire suppression that as it progresses down our factory floor, we leave it under test. So at any time you come in here, you could look at the fire suppression to see that it's been under test. It's like at 50 or 49 and it doesn't change. The reason we do that, it's all part of our process of QA/QC. Even though we QA/QC every station, anything we could leave under test for the duration shows that as we're picking it up and moving this building, there's nothing that could pull apart. So we want to be able to do that. It's, and ensure that whatever we send out our door, we've made sure that we've tested it over and over and over again.
Yes. And it's supposed to be signed by Richard.
Exactly. Exactly. So,
and if you're talking about this particular model, so
yes.
Is it one house or we can order like 2-3 models and combine them
you
into
can
one
combine
house?
them. So the beautiful thing about our units is that if you wanted to put 1, 2, 4 of our units together, we would just leave these walls out and you would just sandwich them together. You could even get them in different lengths, right? So for example, say you wanted to create this back patio area that the wings of it are bedrooms or rooms. You could actually have 6 of these sandwiched together or 5 of them sandwiched together. The ones in the middle are shorter, the ones on the ends are longer. So if you did 60 footers and 40 footers, now you'd have this 20-foot length space. By the width you would have of 5 units or 4 units. So there's a lot of ways that you can customize single family dwelling with our modular units.
So basically it means that if you order a modular housing, it's not like one Lego block.
Yeah.
You are going to order Lego pieces and
Yes.
then combine to your perfect Lego house on your property. Whatever you like.
Yeah, because as a kid, you're always challenged like this Lego, I'm going to fit it here. It's going to hang over. That would be a cantilever. So you could do the same thing. If you're going up, you could have a 40-foot unit and a 60-foot unit, 60-foot units on top. Now you have a balcony. That balcony now is patio cover for the spot below that you can have a sliding glass door.
And if you're talking about the model size, so what are restrictions? Do you have any sizes that...
So in widths, you could go as wide as you want. We can go as long as you want. There was a project and for FEMA that it was like 85 feet.
Mm-hmm.
The natural attributes of steel and wood, especially wood, you couldn't span 80 foot unless you put a couple trees in there. Steel, we can go 80 feet, but what happens is the steel still deflects. So we like to stay 60 foot and under. But if we have to build something that's larger, then our lifting procedure will just accommodate that additional length to make sure that that deflection doesn't impact the drywall inside. The structure will be sound, but like anything, you can put a long piece of steel out there and it flexes, it bends. And that's just a natural attribute of steel. So we would accommodate that by the lifting procedure.
And what if we are talking about the delivery? So do you have any restrictions about the delivery, like what can fit to the highway, be delivered to the property?
Really, the restrictions are dependent on the location that we're delivering it to. For example, if we're delivering it and the streets are small, you're not going to get something that's 70 foot to make that turn or possibly go down the street. With permits, we can get permit waivers to allow a larger thing to go down the street, larger building. We're restricted in times that we could be on the road with a larger building. And the permits, the logistical portion is just going to cost a little bit more, but it's doable. Anything is possible. Height-wise, same thing. if we maximize our buildings. So they're 12 foot tall. We can go taller, but if we go taller, then we have a concern about bridges, street lights, power lines, communication lines that are crossing the street, that if you have endless budget, you want us to remove the street light and get past it, put the street light back in, that's also something that's doable.
And so the next question is about the delivery. So do you deliver them just in the South California or national?
No, we have a logistical partner that we deal with that we deliver anywhere. So whether we're delivering projects to Hawaii, we're delivering stuff to the Bahamas. So wherever the client is and the project is, we coordinate delivery. So over road and on a barge, and then pick it up on the other dock and over road to the location. So from port to port, which we consider port would be our shipping door, to the job site.
And if you're talking about the preparation, like once the model leaves the factory, how do you prepare it for transportation?
So we have our Armax Sika that's on the exterior. It's mechanically fastened. It's a rigid foam with a foil back. Then we wrap them in 10 mil shrink wrap to protect them during transportation. If we have a lot of large glazing, we may ship the glazing separately to ensure that there's no potential for anything to hit the glazing and or for any cracks to take place. And then we'll just reinstall it when it gets to site. But usually with our mods, the 10 mil shrink wrap, that's what you'll see heavy equipment and everything shipped, it goes in that 10 mil shrink wrap. And that protects the surface and everything else.
Let's talk about on-site installation. So before this model is delivered to the site, what exactly needs to be done up front? Like, is it grading, foundation, what else?
Really, the foundation and utilities. All the points of connection for utilities have to be specifically where it is on the design so that we know when we land the building there, we could just do a plug and play for all the utilities. And as well as the foundation needs to be prepared. We don't need all the flat work and that stuff to be done. If it's just graded and then we're walking over dirt, driving over dirt, we can. Usually the crane's planted on a street anyway, so there's not a lot of heavy traffic. It's just foot traffic. And then the foundation's there and utilities, and that's all we need to be able to land the building and put it in its final location.
And what if you're talking about not regular flat property, but if it's, let's say, hillside or the property where is a narrow street or some corner lot, something like this, what would we do in that case?
Well, then what we do with our crane company, we work up what's called a critical lift plan, and that ensures what size crane we need to be able to reach further. So for example, if we're in a tight street, but there's a larger street neighboring, we'll up the size, the tonnage of a crane. Instead of using a 90 ton, we may use a 350 ton. But the reason we do that is so we can reach further and go over an area that was precarious for us to navigate through with the mods and or a crane. So there are ways to navigate when you have situations like that.
So you mean the crane will deliver
just reach over
above the neighbor?
Not necessarily above the neighbor, because you have to have special permission from the neighbor, and most of them won't. But for example, say you have a main street, then your street where your house is very narrow. We will ask permission from the transportation department at local jurisdiction to block off one lane of the main street and then block off the smaller street. What'll happen is the crane will then pick the mod up, extend down the street, and then swing it into place. So that's how we would do it. So we wouldn't impact and fly over any other residence or any existing building.
And if you are talking about the hillside, what challenges are on
same
the hillside?
Thing. It's just the same critical lift plan. It's just the size of crane. And then if you get too precarious, that gets to the point where not all projects are modular friendly. So say, for example, it is a hillside, but we can't get a big enough crane, then that may just be where you have to do stick build. Some areas are too remote or too cumbersome to navigate and or have the ability to put a crane the size you need to deliver it. So that would be a project that you would have to possibly stick built, or maybe it's not worth developing there.
And who is going to manage all this process? Let's say you create the model, you deliver to the site, and so the foundation is supposed to be done by the contractor, local guy, yes? Who is going to be responsible for putting this model on the foundation, connect it to make
sure?
So
we have our own install crew. So our crew from the factory will follow the mod out there and they will do the install. They'll land it, they'll bolt it together, they will coordinate with all your plumbing contractor, your electrical contractor to do all the points of connection for all your utilities.
And as you understand from the permitting, we say inspection, yes? So before delivering this model, you already need to have this utilities inspection, then foundation inspection. So basically when you deliver this model to the site and you just put it on the foundation and you just have the final inspection, yes?
Correct.
For the connection, or are there any other
Well, there will be, because sometimes you don't have flat work done, which are your walkways and your ramps or your driveways, right? They may wait for the last thing, and like your landscaping. So the city inspector, he'll want to see all that done before he gives you your certificate of occupancy. So there are residual inspections after our building is landed. For example, like you're connecting electrical. So we give you the pathway and the panel, but you bring the conductor in and you connect it to the lugs in the panel. The city inspector will want to see that it's torqued down to the right torque spec. So that's one thing they do. The plumbing is connected properly. Your drain is connected properly. If you have gas, the gas line's connected properly. So all those the city inspector will want to see. And what we do with our units, those points of connections are outside the box. So the city inspector never has to go inside. So for example, this one's just about completed. This will be 100% completed before we ship it out. All the millwork, all the casing, everything is done. And then we ship it out. So there's no need for an inspector to come in here. It's been inspected by the state multiple times.
Yeah, that's true. Next, what we are going to talk about is probably the most interesting part of this interview is project management and cost. Everyone is asking about the pricing, you know. So the first question I have to you is how do modular homes compare in cost and schedule to traditional builds?
So a traditional build, their duration, like we talked about earlier about the efficiency of building on a factory setting, cost. If you're doing a stick built, you've got to rent a fence, you've got to rent a restroom, you've got to have, a team there working on site for a long period of time, lay down yards. That's something you don't have when you come to a modular site. You're still going to fence it off, but instead of fencing it off for 18 months, you're fencing it off for 11 months. So there's a cost savings. Your lay down yard, if you have your space you're building and then you have to rent a supplemental yard, additional costs you don't have. Everything's housed here. So that consolidation of time is where you build your efficiencies, which lead you more to modular than traditional stick built. And that's an inherent savings. And when you think about that inherent savings, if you have a project manager that's walking and helping you through this process, or an owner's rep, there's less time that owner's rep and or project manager would have to be on site, which in turn leads to another inherent savings. And on traditional built projects, your general contractor will have fees built in called general conditions. And those general conditions are what they utilize to pull from for their fencing, their site cleanup, their general labor. If you have 18 months or you have 11 months, then you have a savings again from the general conditions that their insurance that they're required to carry for that site is reduced. So that's where you really get a savings, even before thinking about the building delivery system.
If you are talking about the biggest saving, where do the biggest savings usually come in? Is it reduced construction time, fewer labor hours on site, or efficiency in the factory?
I think it's all three, really, right? I mean, the efficiency in the factory leads to the speed of getting your building completed and ready to deliver to site. If you think about the fact that while you're putting your foundation in the ground, your building's being built. So once a foundation is ready, your building's ready to be landed on site. So that's a factory environment. That's a speed within which it can be completed. And then if you look at a traditional stick-built project, you have a critical path on your schedule, your construction schedule. And that's usually what they call a waterfall. So it tiers down. With a factory-built modular, you're actually being able to jump off a cliff inherently, right? Because as you're doing your foundation, you're building your building, so you're cutting all that time off. And now that's a speed to there.
And okay, from the factory side, how do you manage production schedules to keep costs under control?
Well, that's pretty straightforward. I mean, that's, for us, we have our critical path in the schedule. So it's a production floor flow, as we say. So our floor is broken up in 8 stations. So each station has its own inherent scope that has to happen. So each station has a day to complete those scopes. So like a job site, we have a controlled environment. So at a job site, it may take 10 guys to do what 3 guys on our factory floor could do. So each day there's a task to install this. Now, keep in mind, we have all the materials ready to go. So there's no lagging materials back and forth. They're staged right next to their working area. So it's easy for them to then get that material into where they need it to go and then be able to complete the task and scope for that day.
During the regular construction on site, it always happened that there are, some overpayments that are not included, change orders. So what are the biggest factors that can cause cost overruns in modular projects, and how do you prevent them?
So that's a good question. Change orders are usually driven by unforeseens. Now, that's a risk you have when you're doing a traditional stick build. In the factory environment, we're working with a controlled, developed system that's pre-approved. So inherently, all the unforeseens are eliminated. There are no unforeseens. So that variable doesn't lead to a change order. The fact that we plan it out so far in advance, we procure all the materials. So now you're not having to worry about a material cost increase because we're allowed to procure the material in the very beginning. So whatever we lock that price in for, we're now doing all the procurements. All our buyout, as they call it, is done in the very beginning. So you really don't have the risk like you would have on site. The other thing is, on site, you're vulnerable to damage and breakage and theft. In a factory environment, we've eliminated all those. If something is damaged, it's damaged from the manufacturer we procured it from in its transportation here. It's covered through us. It's not covered through you if it's broken on site or the general, contractor or the subcontractor that's on site. So that's how we limit those change orders. So change orders really don't happen unless the client changes the design mid-production. So it's really a client-driven change order scenario. As per stick built, there's variables that are out of the client's control and out of the general contractor's control that could lead to change orders.
The next question is, what financing options are typically available for modular clients, and do you find banks understand this type of construction well?
So there are quite a few financing opportunities out there for modular. Not all banks understand it. For example, HUD, a lot of the larger projects are financed by HUD. HUD is just getting an understanding of modular, but a lot of the issues with modular that's driven off some of the traditional financing has been that most modular companies require a large down payment. Like on our side, we don't. We stick with the traditional AIA pay app. So it's the same thing like if you're building a high-rise stick built or you're building a house stick built, you have a contract and there's a pay app and there's a structured schedule of payments that are due from the very first dollar you issue to the last payment made to us. And that's called progressive billing and progressive payments. And then on top of that, you verify stuff completed. So when we issue an invoice for payment to a client, we always request and insist they come in, they verify what we've completed, they verify they're satisfied with what we've completed, and now they know we can move to the next step, and then whatever they're paying for, they know they've gotten what they've paid for.
Our YouTube followers, they have the question. A lot of people are interested in this. Can you share a real story where modular saved significant time or money, either in production or on the job site? So basically, I think the question is, let's compare just 2 options. We have 1,000 square feet house or ADU, whatever, and money-wise, what would be the difference between on-site build and modular in maybe dollars or percent?
Yeah, so it would follow the same thing we've talked about. It's just the speed within which we could produce that unit for them. If you're going to build on site, you're building 1,000 square foot. If you can build that in, even speed to market or speed to complete of 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, we're able to produce multiple units, 2 to 4 units completed per day with our factory production. So, there's no way for stick built to meet that expectation to do that. For us, with our system, we have inventory. So our parts and pieces that make up our modular units, we have 300 units that we store. So if someone says, hey, I want to do 1,000 square foot, but I need it in, 21 days. We're just pulling parts and pieces from our existing inventory, assembling them to the size and footprint that you would like. And then we're just fitting it out, and we're pulling drywall from our inventory, our spray foam from our inventory, electrical components. So that's really the difference.
So let me explain you a little bit about this, how it saves you money. Let's say you have an ADU, you want to build the ADU 1,000 square feet. You get the loan from the bank. So you're paying this money to the bank. Like first, during the time of the construction, you're paying out of your pocket, yes, this loan. And then once it's done, you can rent it out, and then your tenants can pay the rent, and it covers basically the loan. So it means if the traditional build, let's say, is even 4 months, I think it's more, it's like 6 months, maybe 8 months with all these inspections. So you are going to pay all the 6-8 months out of your pocket. And if you do modular, you just 21 days, you pay, let's say, 1 month, and then you rent it out. So the tenants, they will pay back this rent, so you will get your investment back like in much quicker. So it saves you money. Like 100%. you don't spend your own money. So 6, 7, 8 months, let's say 2,000. So it's like a lot of money you are saving in this, and time as well.
Yes, 100%. And one other thing to add to that is, like most traditional banks, they look at a structure. If the drywall is up, they consider that a structure. If no drywall's up, the electrical's not in, it's not a structure. So when you think of modular, when we're sending it out the door or it's halfway through our production line, the drywall's up. That means they consider it a structure already. So for the bank side, they have more comfort understanding that their investment is secured at a more rapid rate with modular.
This is fire round. So I'm going to ask you a quick questions, or you just have A or B choice.
Okay,
and,
perfect.
Let's go.
All right.
So build faster or build cheaper?
A.
Steel frame or wood frame?
Steel, all day long.
Families or developers?
Either one.
One dream house or 10 affordable homes?
Either one.
Traditional permitting maze or state modular approval?
State modular approval.
I agree with you. Open floor plan or private rooms?
Either one.
Build it yourself or hire a general contractor?
Hire a general contractor.
Factory smell of wood or fresh concrete on site?
Fresh concrete.
Modular is the future or just a trend?
The future.
What advice can you give to the homeowners or investors who are looking into modular housing?
Educate yourself. Ask a lot of questions. Be as educated and understand what you're trying to get as much as the person trying to sell you that product.
That was our episode about this modular housing. Today, we, Ottoman Studio and Mandeville Modular, are filming this video in Palmdale. We go through the whole process from start to like design, permitting, to the factory, delivery to the site, and finished product. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And just give us a like, comment, and follow us for more interesting videos. Thank you.
Thank you. Pleasure.